Manta at SeaWorld San Diego is the best family coaster in all of California. This Mack launch coaster is great for all ages. It's small in scale, making it quite approachable, and it offers a deceptively wild ride that can appease even thrill seekers. Find out what makes this ride so good in this review. For years, SeaWorld Orlando had been planning Manta, a Balger Mabillard flying coaster. This model's unique seating allowed the trains to emulate how a manta moves through the water, and it also helped that the zero car for this model already sort of looked like a manta ray. This coaster opened in 2009. Around the same time, SeaWorld San Diego was planning their very own Manta, except this would be a radically different coaster. Early plans suggested this would be a Premier Rides launch coaster very similar to Universal's Revenge of the Mummy. The main reason for this change was San Diego's height ordinance. In 1972, the California Coastal Commission passed a bill limiting structures taller than 30 feet or 9 meters along the coastline. SeaWorld can and has been able to build rides taller than this, but there are a lot of rules related to the color, location, and just how much of the ride and park can exceed this height. So to simplify Manta's approval process, they decided to keep the ride under 3 stories tall. This ride was originally intended for the 2010 season, but there was a wrinkle in the development phase. The SeaWorld chain was purchased by InBev in 2009 and then sold to the Blackstone Group. Plans for the coaster resumed a few years later, and I think this ultimately benefited the ride in the long term. 2009 was also the year that Mack Rides debuted their launch coaster. The prototype was Blue Fire at Europa Park, and it was very well received. Riders praised the open trains, smooth track work, and diverse elements. Plans for the San Diego Park's coaster resumed, and when it was announced in 2011, it would now be a Mack Rides launch coaster. But it would be nearly 100 feet shorter than Blue Fire and feature no inversions to allow it to appeal to a broader audience. Manta ultimately opened in 2012. Now, I've seen some articles state that theme park consultants believe this coaster costs as much as $35 to $50 million. That's an astounding figure. Early press releases stated the ride would cost just $10 million. Now, I'm guessing that initial figure is just the cost of the coaster, and the rest of it went to the ride's extensive landscaping and theming. I find it a bit hard to fathom all that tripled to quintupled the ride's budget, but I'll trust the experts on that one. This coaster has a lot of greenery around it, and early in the ride, you wrap around a themed rock statue with a waterfall. This also bears the ride's name and fittingly serves as the ride's main entrance. This coaster occupies its own area towards the back corner of the park, and this ride looks phenomenal. It has royal blue track, which looks great on its own, but I love how the coaster goes over and under multiple pathways. It adds so much energy to the midway off-ride and creates exciting visuals on-ride. This helps compensate for the ride's lack of speed. And you also have the animal exhibits. There's a ray pool adjacent to the attraction, and the star of the queue line takes you right past it as well. On that note, it is worth noting this is the most popular ride at SeaWorld San Diego by far. This coaster actually has really good capacity, but its mass appeal can cause it to get a sizable line. Don't be surprised if it approaches the 45 to 60 minute mark on a busier day. This queue offers some good views of the first half at least, but there are a few ways to counteract this wait. First, the park sells quick queue for a much lower rate than other parks. While there aren't as many attractions on the skip the line pass as other parks, this will save you a ton of time with Manta specifically. Second, you can head here either first thing in the morning or at the very end of the night. Usually the ride will be a near walk-on at these times. 3. You can visit the park on a weekday outside the summer months. I've barely had to wait for anything if I visit SeaWorld on one of these days. When you reach the station, you are free to select any row you'd like. For this ride, I recommend the back. I think the Airtime and Whip is strongest back there. I would recommend trying the front at least once for the unobstructed view, because visuals play such a big part in this ride. Each train is comprised of 5 cars. Each car is 2 rows of 2, so each train can hold up to 20 riders. Then the park has 4 trains. I think this ride can operate with 4 trains on the course at once, but the most I've ever seen at one time is 3. This has happened whenever I visit the park on a Saturday. With 3 trains on the course, I think the ride can accommodate over 1,000 riders per hour. This is achieved by separate load and unload platforms. When the ride operates with just 2 trains, the operations slow way down. When this happens, the ride loads and unloads in the exact same spot. Since riders board and exit on the same side of the platform, exiting guests need to completely leave the ride platform before the air gates open for the next guests. This procedural change can easily cut the ride's capacity in half. Now, the restraints in this ride are very similar to the other Mack launch coasters, and that's a good thing. You have an overhead lap bar, and I find it very comfortable. It can lower further during the ride, but I don't have an issue with it because your upper body is still very free to experience all those negative Gs. It is also worth noting the seats are elevated so your feet will be off the ground. This amplifies the lateral forces for me. One other thing I haven't touched on yet is the ride's theming. The nose of the lead car is shaped like a manta, and it has this vibrant, multicolored paint scheme. These are some of the prettiest and sleekest trains out there. Most of the coaster doesn't have any theming, but it does start off with a little dark ride scene. Once you're dispatched, you roll into a tunnel with a big wraparound screen. You have all these fish and rays swimming around you. The screen was fairly faded in my recent visit, so I hope they can increase the brightness in the future to make it easier to see. Then for special events like Electric Ocean and Christmas, they can add some extra lighting effects, which is neat to see. While all of this occurs, the train is gently pushed back and forth to simulate the motion of the tides. It is a small but welcome touch. Then you also have some fun music that intensifies. Eventually, it builds to a crescendo, and then you launch. Now, Mack launches are infamous with coaster enthusiasts for being very weak. However, their first 2 launch coasters seem to have more of a kick to them, and that of course includes Manta. While this ride has a modest top speed of just 43 miles per hour or 69 kilometers per hour, that first launch has decent force to it. I think it's comparable in strength to the other magnetic launches in SoCal. This leads into a banked hill that dips beneath the bridge in the entry area. This twisting plunge is the ride's largest drop at 54 feet or 16 meters tall because it goes underground. More specifically, it dives underneath that pathway, giving a great near miss for all. Then that drop gives good floater airtime and laterals for those in back as well. Manta then wraps around that aforementioned rock structure. This is one of the ride's tamer elements, but the visuals are fun at least. You then bank left into a camelback that looks towards the queue line. You get some floater airtime up front, but these negative Gs are quite a bit more sustained if you're in the back. This is followed by a smaller bunny hill, and then you twist into a little hump along the midway. Both these hills give tiny pops of airtime. You then bank right and hit a very obnoxious trim brake. It's not so much that the ride slows you down, more, it's just how abrupt this brake is. When you watch this moment off-ride, everyone is jerked forwards when it engages. I wish this deceleration was a lot more smooth. This brake is immediately followed by the second launch, so your torso gets pulled right back against the seat. I don't think the second launch is quite as forceful as the first, but it still has some oomph to it, and it beats any other Mack launch in the US. This leads into the second half, which is the wilder part of the ride for me. The launch is followed by a low 180-degree turn left. The transition into this element gives fantastic lateral snaps. Then the turn itself offers nice positive Gs too. You then climb upwards and have a sharp curving drop to the right. The apex of this hill gives an ejector pop for everyone, but it's more abrupt further back in the train. Then everyone gets some great laterals, particularly because you're still out of your seat when they kick in. Without any delay, you charge over this intense S-hill. This is easily the best part of the ride for me. This gives a very strong jolt of airtime, again, particularly if you're in the back. And as with the prior hill, it's paired with some more laterals. And if that's not enough, it leads into a low turn piling on the positive Gs. Manta actually hits a max of 4 Gs, which is quite high for a ride of this size, and I believe this is where it occurs. This really is a spectacular sequence that feels like something that would belong on an Intamin Blitz coaster. Manta then does let his foot off the gas afterwards, as you have some gentle turns back towards the station. It is a bit of a disappointing finale for a thrill seeker, but I get why a reprieve was added for people to catch their breaths. And on the bright side, it does go past the flamingo exhibit, so you get some more fun visuals. You then hit the final brakes, which are thankfully far smoother than the aforementioned trim brake. You then return to the station, ending the 2,835 foot or 864 meter long coaster. This ride is a perfect length, and it jams a lot of ride despite its modest height and speed stats. This coaster's pacing reminds me of Phantasialand's Terran. Each half of the ride is quite good. The first 3/4 of each half have nice elements, but both do fade right at the end. I'm more forgiving on Manta given that it's designed to be more of a family coaster, but I still want to note it out of fairness. Then in terms of smoothness, Manta really excels here. This is an extremely rewritable coaster. The train has a light rattle in a few spots, but absolutely nothing that could cause anyone discomfort. This is a very smooth coaster. The only uncomfortable bit is that comically sudden break midway through the ride. Make sure to brace for that one. So what would I rate Manta? I would give this Mack multi-launch coaster an 8.5 out of 10. Is there a better coaster under 30 feet tall? I'm struggling to think of one. Manta offers an immensely fun and rewritable experience for all ages. There are some genuinely good spots of airtime and laterals to satisfy even the most jaded of coaster enthusiasts. And the ride remains approachable given its smoothness and size. Then everyone can appreciate the visuals while riding along. I know SeaWorld San Diego has added multiple thrill coasters in recent years, including the new Emperor Dive Coaster, but Manta is still my favorite attraction at the park. It gives you the most coaster, and it's the park's most airtime-centric ride by far. So those are my thoughts on Manta at SeaWorld San Diego. What are your thoughts on this Mack launch coaster? Do you agree it's the best family coaster in SoCal? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.